I'm Jack Perkins, and this is Biography. On March 5th, 1982, John Belushi, the actor-comedian, died in Los Angeles at the age of 33. He was fairly youthful still, but he'd already become a major media star. There were hit records, hit movies, hit television shows. Belushi had worn a number of different faces. We remember him as a killer bee, a samurai warrior, as Joliet Jake of the Blues Brothers, and as the biggest animal in Animal House. But in spite of all those wonderful characters he had portrayed, it did seem for quite a while that the furor surrounding his death could overshadow all that he had accomplished. Well, it is a fact, unarguable, that John Belushi was a man who could make people laugh. Join us now on Biography for the story of John Belushi, told by those who knew him best.
Really knew exactly what he wanted to do. And he tried to understand every medium he was in and do what was right.
He chose very carefully his friends, and to those friends he was good, you know.
John always showed up unannounced, whether it was to do anything or just sit and talk, or he wanted to swim, or he wanted to, you know, take a sauna or something. You know, he always showed up unannounced.
He had an uncanny ability to become instantly intimate with people.
John would make exciting things happen, which no one else can do. He would just swoop me up and against my will force me to do things that would be fun.
In the years following John Belushi's death, his wife, Judith Jacqueline Belushi, videotaped a series of private conversations with John's friends, colleagues, and family. She wanted to preserve for posterity a sense of John's art and life while the memories were still fresh. Conducted in 1985 and 1986, these conversations give extraordinary insight into the creative genius of a man who affected his times, but could not outlive them.
He came from a real interesting time when, you know, when theater was, people didn't even really know what theater was. There was rock and roll, but there wasn't really any kind of theater or comic theater, or it was kind of a slow period anyway of comic theater, and certainly not comic television. It was a completely different animal than it is now. And the first times I saw him on the stage, it was really like there was a whole new idea, you know. It really was a whole new idea.
In the first place, he was the absolute symbol of his generation. These people who grew up in those times, the Vietnam War and everything else that happened, had a certain kind of attitude toward life and a certain kind of cynicism, or irony at least, that he certainly exemplified.
I do remember his audition fairly vividly, because we'd had a meeting beforehand and we'd talked.
It would be convenient to say that John Belushi was always John Belushi, but it's true. Born in 1949 in Humboldt Park, then a largely Albanian section of Chicago, John discovers at an early age that the camera is one of his friends.
It was a nice neighborhood. The kids played together, a lot of Albanian kids that, you know, families had children his age. And he was just like a little man. He just took care of himself. He talked to this one woman in the building next door. She says, "I never saw such a child." He was like 5 years old, and he talked like he was like about 10 years old, she said to him. That's what she said to me. He just talked to the older women, to anybody. He was just very mature for his age.
He was very dark as a kid, and they used to call him Pancho. And he took me through the neighborhood and showed me where we used to live and the alleys he used to sneak down and run around, and he showed me the pool that he said he had the privilege of sneaking in during all the hours. They had certain hours for swimming for adults, swimming for girls, and he would climb over the fence and all the lifeguards and, "Oh, there's Pancho, let him go swimming," you know. So he was very well liked in the neighborhood.
When John is 6, the Belushis move to Wheaton, a starchy suburb of Chicago. Here, John, his older sister Marion, and younger brothers Jim and Billy find their surroundings less cramped than Humboldt Park. The warm presence of their mother Agnes and grandmother Nena is a notable contrast to the frequent absence of their father Adam, who spends his weeks in the city running restaurants. Weekends, however, are joyous family affairs. When it comes time to blend in, however, Wheaton is farther from Chicago than shows up on maps. John's Albanian heritage makes him seem alien to his waspy classmates.
Everybody looked at him like he was kind of from outer space, and because he had dark hair, and I think he was probably beginning to grow a beard at that time already. So everybody kind of strayed away from him, but because of his class, clownish demeanor, he won friends very easily.
In high school, he was on the football team, too. I used to call him Killer because he was like, he played with all his heart and soul. He loved that football.
John was a middle linebacker. He was a co-captain of the team. He was kind of short, but he was the toughest middle linebacker I think Wheaton ever had. I used to love watching the game and hearing over a loudspeaker, you know, Belushi in on a tackle, Belushi in on a tackle.
We were on bleachers at a football game, and some guy called me a name, and John heard him, and he got really mad, and he grabbed the guy, and he hit him. The guy fell all the way down the bleachers. And then we ran down there because I was really upset over that. I go, what'd you do that for? And he just, forget it, no one talks to you like that. You know? So we went down there, and this guy's laying there. So I picked up his head to see if he was all right, and they called the ambulance and stuff. And John goes, you apologize to my sister right now. The guy's laying there bleeding, and he made him apologize to me, and he did. I'll never forget that. I was so embarrassed.
John also becomes interested in acting and comedy.
It was just amazing to see the transformation because he took it so seriously. And, you know, at that time we felt that, you know, we were Hollywood movie stars. And to me, looking back on it, it's so ironic that all of the stage stuff, and we did a lot of comedy too that was improvisational at that time. And I think it's real interesting to look back and see how things evolve.
He'd do impressions of everybody. That was the big thing. He'd do impressions of my father. He'd do impressions of my uncle, of everyone in the family. I think that's where he started his imitations, you know. He had a real knack for mimicking. He could mimic anybody.
Would he do them in the presence of the people that he was mimicking?
No, in front of my father? No. No. Of course, he could probably do it right to my father's face, and my father wouldn't even know it, you know. He wouldn't even know it. No, I wouldn't do that.
He had just begun to do some acting. Now, Juanita and I had worked in summer stock. I talked to John quite a bit about it. I took him into Chicago to try out. And they said, well, all right, because he was a friend of mine. He said he would take him in and let him try out with these adults. But I had to wait in the car. They didn't want me to prompt him or anything. So I brought him down. I took him in the house with a whole bunch of people. I waited in the car, and then about a half an hour later, somebody came out and got me. And here John was entertaining the whole group. He was doing bits and, you know, and they wanted him on the spot.
John appears in 7 plays in 7 weeks at the Shawnee Summer Theater. At 18, he's the youngest actor they've ever hired. Despite the opportunity, he's eager to return home at summer's end. He has a girlfriend. Her name is Judy Jacklin.
Biography will continue in a moment here on A&E.
This is the award-winning Eagle Vision from the Chrysler Corporation. Eagle Vision. Pretty cool, huh?
Oh, no, you're not. Give me those keys. Leave me alone.
The issue is teen driving.
My head. I'm a good driver, Dad.
It causes collisions between parents and teens before they ever get behind the wheel. So Liberty Mutual created a teen driving video. Helps open doors and minds. Pick up the video at your local Liberty office so everyone's safer on the road and at home. Liberty Mutual, facing the issues that face our customers.
Since I came to the United States, I speak English better, but Russian is still my language.
This is my home, Brighton Beach.
The Russian language is like music. I speak Russian everywhere.
Everything is Russian.
Russian bed, books Russian.
Russian nightclub. The weather is Russian. Now even my phone company, Russian.
With MCI's friends around the world, you can have your international operator service in your language automatically.
They even call me to make sure I'm getting their best savings. It makes everything просто, simple. It shows respect.
Join friends around the world anytime. The easiest way to call, the easiest way to save.
Nothing.
No, nothing.
Nothing, really.
What do you get the man who wants nothing?
Father's Day.
Marshall's has great gifts for Father's Day, like these top-name fragrances, just $14.99. Famous name swimwear, only $9.99. Wrinkle-free pants, $19.99. And Arrow Tournament golf shirts for just $9.99. So hurry in now.
I wouldn't mind a little something.
Never, never, never pay full price. Marshall's.
A&E's Biography continues with the life of John Belushi.
We were over across the street from my parents' house at Herrick Lake. And once again, I was with my group of girlfriends, and he was with a group of guys. And we were playing, we were having a water fight. And in his enthusiasm, it was I was in the same boat with John. He came back like this to, you know, to go through, and he hit me. I went behind him, and he hit me. And that was actually when he started phoning me. So he phoned me, how's your arm? That went on for a couple of weeks.
I remember going with Judy and Les to John's father's restaurant. And I've always wondered how we happened to pick that particular restaurant. We wonder if Judy had anything to do with that, because John was a busboy, the most elegantly handsome young character I ever saw in my life, and there was a lot of tension. Judy and John were sort of not looking at each other and looking at each other, and we had the impression that John was horribly embarrassed.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. That was the very first time I can ever remember seeing him. And Judy sort of eased him in, like saying, I have a friend that's on the football team.
And he wanted to be a football player. And he, in fact, had a scholarship to Illinois Wesleyan for both football and acting, which was pretty much his dream and what he wanted to do. And he had intended to do that. But interestingly, no, they had arranged to give him a job where he'd get some money. Everything was fine, but he was not accepted at the school. You know, somehow this all happened, and then he found out he wasn't accepted, and it sort of broke his football plans because he'd passed up his other scholarships along the way. Perhaps an interesting, you know, quirk of fate.
Yet more than fate moves the rest of America in the late 60s. The Vietnam War is raging, and every draft-eligible male is being sucked into its vortex. Student activism becomes a way of life. In nearby Chicago, in the summer of 1968, the Democratic Party convention ignites a storm of anti-war protest, and police respond with tear gas. John is among those who are gassed. John, whose politics are already liberal, now realizes he's not alone. At school, he makes two friends who feel the same way, about politics and comedy.
John wanted to form a comedy trio. We called ourselves the West Compass Players. The Compass Players were an improvisational theater group formed in Chicago by Paul Sills and many famous improvisational actors. And we called ourselves the West Compass Players because we grew up in the western suburbs. Perhaps a little pretentious of us, but we were young.
John found this coffee house on the corner of Carpenter and Polk and talked to the guy and won his confidence over. They were serving I think 12 or 15 kinds of exotic teas there on Friday and Saturday nights. And John proposed the idea to them that we'd come in there and do shows on Friday and Saturday nights.
The West Compass players got their material from the newspaper, from the street, and from going to the Second City Theater and trying to steal a Second City material.
And I thought, well, maybe it's better to have them audition and know what they're stealing than let them go on. And, of course, they came up, and, of course, John blew me away immediately. I think he's the only actor, and, in fact, I know he's the only actor we ever auditioned, whom I not only fell in love with immediately, but immediately put into the main company.
My name is Craig Baker. I'm in your Mystery 2 class. I seem to have missed your final exam. Yes, you did. In fact, you attended the first 2 classes and then missed the rest of the term. Well, I'm here to explain that, sir. See, I was working part-time after school in the steel mills. And some molten steel splashed on my leg. And while I was in the hospital, I got acute intestinal flu. And rheumatic fever just popped up right after.
When he was on stage, there was nobody else on stage. He had a magnetism. Very few people have this. I call it in the manner born. I mean, he was just born to do that. You know, there are a lot of rules that we teach in improvisation. John broke all the rules. Didn't make any difference. I mean, the audience just wanted more of him.
He'd take care of the actors. He was out for the show and for the people who were in it, and he would really try for us. And he was a main force of that company, not because of his talent, because his talent was big and filled up the theater like that, but also because he cared about the whole show and about the people in it.
I personally think that he changed Second City. You know, I mean, because all they used to talk about is Descartes and Kant and philosophy and, you know, moral dilemma and will and, you know, intellectual concepts. And John would come in there and play this hippie off the street who was lost his memory from smoking too much pot, and the audience would go nuts.
One Second City character wins John particular notoriety.
John did this incredible Joe Cocker impression. I guess he'd been practicing at home and in the car and in the shower, whatever. And he went on to become the most famous Joe Cocker impersonator since Joe Cocker himself.
John's Joe Cocker impression draws the notice of the National Lampoon. The nothing sacred extension of the Harvard Humor magazine has decided to produce an off-Broadway satire of Woodstock. It's called Lemmings, and there are to be no stars. John Belushi will change that.
Biography will continue in a moment here on A&E.
I want to tell you about my home far away. My mother and father are there.
Strengthening the links of communications requires capital. In the last 3 years, Merrill Lynch raised over $50 billion for communications companies around the globe. We connect investors to opportunities and the people of the world to each other. For them, it makes a difference. The difference is Merrill Lynch.
This talk show had a congressman who was still against gun control.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising. After JR got shot, I figured everyone would be for it. I mean, wake up, America.
I hear this new bill will force us to carpool to work.
Well, you know, Fred and Barney have been riding to the quarry together for years.
Restroom?
I'll help you. Some people know CNBC is the first place for intelligent talk.
Oh, Home Shopping Channel.
And some don't. CNBC, when you're tired of tuning out, tune in.
Because they're helping to build dreams. Because of their spirit of teamwork. The men and women of Home Depot share in the spirit of the Olympics. And to help build better homes, we're proud to have Armstrong as a member of our Home Depot Olympic family. Armstrong is America's choice for ceilings and floors that bring the height of fashion to your home. They give you their best, just like the U.S. Olympic team and just like the people at Home Depot.
On the next episode of Sherlock Holmes Mysteries, a code of little dancing men brings messages of doom. Can Sherlock decipher it in time?
It is a considerable challenge.
Then, on an all-new Lovejoy Mysteries, the case of the missing candlesticks.
Candlesticks? Candlesticks?
Leaves Lovejoy hanging.
It won't go.
What do you mean it won't go?
Both on the A&E Monday Night Mysteries. Tonight on A&E.
A&E's biography continues with the life of John Belushi.
Come on, hold it down. Okay, first of all, I'd like to welcome you to the Woodchuck Memorial Festival of Peace, Love, and Death.
We moved to New York in 1972, very end of the year. Moved from Second City into a show called Lemmings for National Lampoon. Supposed to be, lemmings are little animals that when they get overpopulated, they just run and jump over cliffs. And that was sort of the idea of this festival, was that we were overpopulated and needed to thin ourselves out.
Hey! Shirley! Hey, John! John! Hey, yo, buddy, man! Oh, it's been such a God. 1, 2, 3. Man! Hey, how you been, old buddy? Where you been? I ain't seen you around.
I was in Newark, John.
In Newark?
Yeah, I was on vacation.
Oh, wow.
Nice vacation.
He really had a hold on the kids his age from the Midwest, on just how they behaved, how hippies behaved then, how the guy who was at Woodstock and did the talking, he just knew how to relate to them. And, but he had a great command.
Okay, try this. Oh, my God, this is the biggest Quaalude I've ever seen.
I went to see Lemmings, which I believe was playing at the Village Gate. During the course of the evening, this guy came on stage that was just unbelievable. And that was John. And he was just amazing. It was a very talented group that was doing the show to begin with. But he was just great. And so after the show, we went backstage, and it was like, oh, we were going to go out to dinner. And in my mind, I had made a decision. I mean, there was Chevy Chase, who I'd never seen before, who was cute and talented. And then there was this sort of heavy-set guy that was, I don't know, he had a spark in him that was amazing. And I said, let's go with the fat guy.
During Lemmings, that's the first time I met John. I knew nothing about acting on a stage. I was hired because I could play the drums and the piano. They needed people who could play 2 instruments and also be funny. And I was pretty bad, really. I got pretty good as the show went on at some things. He was clearly the star and the best improvisatorial guy there.
John and Judy stay in New York when Lemmings tours. She works for the National Lampoon magazine, while he's put in charge of another Lampoon project, the National Lampoon Radio Hour.
I met him in Second City in Toronto, and he came up to raid the show to grab people for his radio endeavors down here. John grabbed Gilda and came down and did the National Lampoon Radio Hour, and Bob Tischler and Paul Schaefer and, you know, Ivan Reitman and Bill Murray, and there you have the essential struts, pillars, and crutches of the American comedy industry as we have it today. And John was like one of these cohesive forces bringing it all together, you know?
Listen, Barry Regita, I just want to say right now before we start, you know, that last time I was here, you know, I was real drunk, you know.
Great.
I was blasted,
Blasted
you know.
you were, yes.
So I just want to say I apologize for getting so drunk and,
that's okay.
you know, calling you a wad and everything and throwing up on you and calling you towel head and
that's
stuff,
all right.
you know.
That's okay.
But, you know, I was drunk, you know, and
I know.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry everybody out there, you know.
Well, that's Mr. Baker, Mr.
And I got a present for you, too. So somebody tell you how I feel about you.
That is so nice.
Here it is. This is a first pre-mixed, pre-measured disposable douche for you.
Goodness gracious.
That's right.
Merci,
That's how I feel about you.
It smells good.
Yeah.
I like that very much.
Yeah.
Yes, my wife Peter
Really?
will
You're my
enjoy
only douchebag friend.
The 19-year-old perfect master, who was basically a Midwestern kid who was a guru and preached the philosophy that you would expect from a Midwestern kid. And that was pure John.
Radio Hour and Lemmings give John much-needed exposure, but his career languishes. He even acts in a sketch called Supervision for PBS, his first TV appearance. But basically, he waits for something to happen.
Later this week on Biography. Tomorrow, Groucho Marx. On Wednesday, Steve McQueen. And on Thursday, Bruce Lee.
It all runs together. Time for our jobs, ourselves, our families. Is there something that connects us? Something that transcends time and distance? Well, there's Mobile Link. Only cellular service that has Mobile Link makes it easy to stay connected almost everywhere, all the time. Or just whenever.
Make sure your local cellular service has Mobile Link. Call 800-995-4000.
This is the Eagle Vision TSI, with an 11-speaker spatial imaging sound system, solar control windshield, even driver and passenger airbags. Chrysler Corporation's revolutionary cab-forward design gives you more room inside. Eagle Vision also includes a 24-valve, 214-horsepower engine, as well as anti-lock brakes. Those of you looking for a simulated wood grain dashboard, we've got bad news for you.
Discover the luxury, elegance, and sophistication of Bally's Las Vegas. Room, show, dining, and more. Yours for just $39.50 per person per night. Call 1-800-644-0999 and ask for Bally's Super Celebration Package. Bally's Las Vegas. A touch of class.
We serious British adore dignified classical videos with courageous heroes and proper gentlemen by Shakespeare, Dickens or Jane Austen. At the Continental Shop, we have thousands of British videos for you to buy or rent, more than you can possibly handle, even if you have 8 arms. We have records and CDs, teas, jams, jellies and biscuits, British sausages and pies, even a full British travel service. So get your hands on all that's best from Britain, from A to Z, at the Continental Shop on Wilshire Boulevard in Santa Monica.
A&E's Biography continues with the life of John Belushi.
It was 15 minutes before the first Saturday night show in 1975. I was running someplace, and here was this guy who I had met maybe for a second. And Craig Kellum, who was the associate producer, was sitting with him. And he says, "Come here." He says, "Should I sign this contract?" Which was the NBC contract. I said, "Of course you should." He said, "Well, before I sign it, will you manage me?" I said, "Well, what do you say?" He said, "Well, you handle Lorne, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Then you got to handle me." Then he signed the contract. That's how I met John. I had no idea for a year that he was a big...
My writing duties on the show were really quite separate from any interest that John and I had, you know. And also, we weren't really a team when we got to Saturday night, and I don't think when it was all over from the show we were perceived as a team. It was only from...
The way he wrote, because John would have things like, John would have written something on this. And he would take it out of his pocket, and there would be an idea written on this, you know, and then he would elaborate it into some wonderful piece of comedy.
But he couldn't physically write. He wasn't, you know, part of being a writer is physically able to form the little letters and consonants. Looked like some ransom note from Bruno Hauptmann.
To me, you know, who was a magazine writer for the Lampoon, I thought of writing as putting a piece of paper in the typewriter and typing. Well, John certainly was a writer. He was never that kind of a writer. He was finding, you know, matchbooks in his pockets with ideas on them kind of writer.
At one time in the National Lampoon, he tried to get a job as a writer, and he'd written this piece, and this is how he'd do it. He'd say, listen, I got this piece here, and, wait a minute. No, wait a minute, this is, wait a minute. No, this is it. Wait a minute, this is it. And he'd written it all on a napkin with like thing, and he thought that's what writing was, you know, just, wait a minute. I got it.
Well, he was getting paid to be himself, which of course is something we all like to do. And I'm sure that his humor was very cathartic for him, just as it is for, or should be for anybody else who is being paid to be funny.
Judy and I both fought to keep that one in the Best of Belushi, and I think we're glad we did. I think that's pretty fun.
Light quickly shifts to John. Soon, John receives movie offers too. The first is a small role in the Jack Nicholson film Going South, most of which never makes it to the screen. But at least John gets to ride a horse, pleasing his father Adam, a lifelong Western fan who joins him on horseback. On New Year's Eve, 1976, John and Judy are married. They honeymoon in Colorado, then head back to New York and the TV show.
What's the title of this movie?
Animal House.
Animal House.
Nice.
Animal House.
Movie.
Come opening August 1978.
Big smiling.
Animal House is shot over 4 weeks in late 1977, with the laughs on location rivaling those that make it to the screen.
Now the count, comes behind you, grabs you like this, picks you up, and rams your head into the wall, right, repeatedly, right? Caving this whole side in, and the brain sort of is exposed. It's the cow's brain. Don't
I have a double for that? Or?
No, you got it. It's close up. You got to do it. It'll be like concrete or something.
All right.
So then the makeup guy comes in, takes this half of your head off. The brain's exposed, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we can actually see.
That I can do, yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of a role is this for you? I understand it was written pretty much for you.
I think every role was written for me.
The part of Bluto was written for John Belushi. And the part of Bluto is interesting because it was very clear after meeting John and dealing with John that the movie actually worked out. You could look at that film as setups. And there are many stories going on. It's a real ensemble piece, and there's a lot of fine actors. But it's great for John in that it has terrific entrances and exits for Bluto. Bluto sort of comes on, is charming and funny, and gets off. You know, it's a great part.
See if you can guess what I am now. I'm a zit. Get it?
Over the summer of 1978, Animal House becomes the top-grossing comedy in movie history. Combined with Saturday Night Live, the fame energizes John, but he chafes at the pressure that comes with it.
The Saturday Night Live experience was so alien to normal life that people became so famous and so, you know, I mean, to have enough money to eat was such an amazing shock after being in New York, really starving for, you know, a few years, and in Chicago too. That that fame thing, like when they first came out to California, I was in California when they came back after the first season of Saturday Night, and they were so different. Dan and John, they were. I was like, I'd known these guys already a long time, and I was like, oh boy, what has happened here?
If we take off for a day in New York and go, and he would say, okay, this is how you go around town without being recognized. And he'd put his collar up and put a little cap on, and he said, the way you hold your body, just the way you move, and you don't make eye contact, this is the way people never notice you. You know, you hide from him. And it would be great, because we would walk through, and people just wouldn't see it was him. He said, if I want to be noticed, you know, and they would, like, take the hat off and then, like, people would flock and run across the street.
He would just say that, you know, people don't understand how tough it is. You know, it's about my parents especially, you know. They just don't understand. They don't understand what I have to go through. They just don't.
What do you mean?
Well, they always wanted his time, you know. They always wanted to say, oh, why doesn't he call? Why isn't he there? You know, why doesn't he come and see us at Christmas like everyone else? And, you know, you just don't understand. They don't understand. They have no idea what my life is like.
Biography will continue in a moment here on A&E.
Imagination can take your mind to incredible places. For about $18,300, Jeep Cherokee Sport will make sure the rest of you gets there, too.
The first thing I did when I came to the United States was find a soccer game. Of course, in Colombia, it's more than a game. It's your passion. It's your life. La vida. I played with some of the guys there since I was a little chiquillo.
With MCI's friends around the world, you can call all the people you care about more often.
I speak to my old goalie at least once a week.
Because you save on your international calls every day.
He also happens to be my brother. You let 3 goals in? No, man. I think it needs me down there.
Join friends around the world anytime. The easiest way to call, the easiest way to save.
Today I got a letter from a retired colonel from Kentucky. Snapple is a super product, perhaps the only good that has ever come out of New York. Let's set him straight.
Some people you could persuade they're wrong, and others you'll never persuade. I'm Ed Koch. You thought this was the only good thing that came out of New York, and I know that it's the place where the corned beef sandwich was invented, and the first elevator that was installed was in New York. So isn't that terrific?
You're talking about New York City. I was talking about New York.
Yeah. What's that, a rose bush?
I don't know.
The first capital of the United States was in New York City. And it's true.
Snapple still is the best thing that ever came out of New York.
You got it.
Now, let's give a toast to this beautiful country.
Great USA.
I love it.
I do, too.
Snapple made from the best stuff on earth.
You know why they call Wall Street Wall Street? Because there was a wall there.
What is it? Got a big black mustache. Smokes a big black cigar. And he's a big pain in the neck. Now, don't tell me.
He is the Marx brother you think of first. From vaudeville to television, Groucho Marx wisecracked his way to fame and fortune.
One morning, I shot an elephant in my pajamas. How he got in my pajamas, I don't know.
My father got away with murder insulting people because they thought he was being funny. They didn't know he really meant it.
Groucho Marx on Biography. Tomorrow on A&E.
A&E's Biography continues with the life of John Belushi.
Well, you got the camera.
As an escape from the scrutiny of the public, John and Judy buy a beach cottage on Martha's Vineyard, an island off the coast of Massachusetts. The vineyard is a haven for celebrities who mix comfortably with the stoic islanders. The Belushi house soon becomes a focus for casual, non-showbiz activity.
He loved being at home, though. It was always like, you know, after work, come on up. And I knew it was just to relax, you know, him and I hanging around, watching videos.
In the midst of everything else, the Blues Brothers become a surprise hit. Jake and Elwood Blues, created by John and Dan Aykroyd to warm up the Saturday Night Live studio audience, go on concert tour almost as a lark and find themselves a sensation.
We were shooting Animal House in Oregon. One night we went to hear a band, and it was this little guy. We thought he looked like Danny a little, and he played harmonica, and his name was Curtis Salgado. And afterwards, we met him and talked to him, and John was very enthusiastic about his music, and he was very enthusiastic about blues, and someone new who wanted to learn, and so he and John just started, rifling through blues tapes and playing and recording things and just listening to music, and that was sort of the beginning of Jake Blues.
It was the philosophy of, these characters were rebels, they were, bad guys, and kind of within a context. I mean, they weren't morally or evil or spiritually bad. They were just bad in terms of the law, and they had to stay straight. So that's where that came out of.
On his 30th birthday, the album went to #1. He was on the #1 television show, and Animal House was the #1 grossing comedy. And he would often later say that that was a difficult time for him. He didn't know, he was high on his success, and he was unsure what people wanted from him and what was going on and how to relate to people and all that for a while.
Suddenly, there are bumps in the road. 1941, a manic comedy about World War II becomes John's and director Steven Spielberg's first disappointment. Then, Old Boyfriends hits theaters. John had shot the film before Animal House, but only now is it released. In it, John plays a dramatic role, frustrating his fans who expect him to be funny. And finally, his beloved grandmother, Nena, suffers a heart attack across the country. She clings to life until John arrives at her side.
Oh, Nana loved anything my kids did. Grandma was like, they could knock her down and jump on top of her, and she wouldn't care. She just loved my children. She lived for my kids, and they were just, John wrote one time that Nana was the soul of our family, and she was.
Once again, it's the Blues Brothers to the rescue, as Animal House director John Landis brings Jake and Elwood to the big screen.
When you think about it, it is outrageous to make a feature film where your two lead characters, you can't see their eyes for the whole movie. I don't think Danny ever did take his glasses off. But that moment when John takes his glasses off with Carrie in the tunnel, and that's a real classic Belushi, seductive, very successful, winning scene. And, of course, then Jake dumps her in the mud.
Let's go.
Take it easy.
John follows the Blues Brothers with Continental Divide as a Chicago reporter doing a story on a reclusive naturalist played by Blair Brown. It's a change of pace for him, a romantic comedy in the Tracy Hepburn mold in which the two opposites wind up falling in love.
I'm over you completely, by the way.
Oh, me too. Over you? Totally.
Entirely. The subtlety and the nuance of John and Continental Divide is what I really appreciated. I thought that was, to date, is, for me, his best performance. I think it was the closest that he played to himself, and you really saw the warmth and the honesty of John,
In 1981, Neighbors, a comedy pitting an uptight suburbanite against the bore next door, with John and Dan Aykroyd cast against Image. But the film set is tense. Stars and director are frequently at odds, and the finished product reflects the discord. John's career frustration infects his personal life. Friends anguish over his behavior. When he's working, John is in top form. But between projects, his energy takes him down dark alleys.
It was clear to everyone at that point that John had a physical problem with cocaine. And everybody that could have had access to him and that we knew about who would give him the stuff was, they just weren't on the island, or if they were on the island, it was just very clear that they weren't welcome if they were bringing that stuff, and John put out the vibe, too. It was like, I don't want to see it, you know?
When someone you love is screwing up, it's very hard to deal with, and very hard to deal with on many levels. I mean, when you're making a big movie, and the practical reality of getting a shot, and the practical reality of saying, will you stop? And he'd flash those baby, you know, that you can do as Belushi, look. When John passed away, my first reaction was one of great anger. I was furious with him, just furious with him, because I wouldn't see him anymore. And I just felt, how dare you do that to me? I was just furious, really angry.
I think, like a lot of other people, I was very angry. Angry at the waste, and in a way angry at the system, because I think the system, and by the system I mean the Hollywood system and the commercial television system, hold out aspirations and goals and temptations for people that are so far removed from anything that has to do with talent and worth and good work. And once you get into that syndrome, once you get into that world, you have to be almost insane to fight it, because everyone around you conspires to keep you in it.
I resent and resist any attempts by people to draw conclusions from John's death, or to make judgments, or, you know, it's true that John would probably, and those of us who were his friends would probably want people to be cautious. But, you know, it didn't have to happen, but it did, you know.
It's so funny. People have this view of John as Bluto, who smashes guitars and wears togas and has food fights. And John was, you know, not like that at all. It was, most of the time, he was really very quiet and serious, and liked fine wine, and raised pedigree pussycats with his wife.
He was a great hugger, John. When he hugged you, you felt hugged.
I love John very much. I miss him. I talk about him more than I talk about live people.
I think that he was a very powerful figure of our time, and certainly not just a fine, fat comic actor. You know, he was somebody that, when you think of this period of time, I think his name will always be mentioned and remembered.
John Belushi's life and death were controversial, and they spawned two quite different books. Bob Woodward's book, Wired, focused on the unhappy circumstances surrounding the drug overdose. Judy Jacqueline Belushi, in Samurai Widow, countered with a much warmer and more human portrait of the man she knew and loved. By the way, Judy is now remarried to a producer-writer named Victor Paisano. The couple is raising a family and enjoying life a little farther away from the fast lane. Perhaps in the end, what we will remember when we think of John Belushi will be the laughs and the good times. Now let's see what's coming up next on Biography.
Maybe it was the mustache, or was it the cigar? Whatever the reason, he could make us laugh like no other, despite the sadness that surrounded him. The Extraordinary Life of Groucho Marx, tomorrow on Biography.
I hope you'll join Peter Graves and me 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, here on Biography. I'm Jack Perkins. Thanks for watching.
To order a video cassette of this program, call now, 1-800-423-1212.
They used the name of God for their own profit. Bill Curtis explores the Jim and Tammy Faye Baker case, Wednesday on an all-new American Justice.
And now join us for Sherlock Holmes Mysteries, next on A&E.
Number 9. Number 9. Number